This is the Hyundai i20N, and its sole purpose is to give the Ford Fiesta ST a huge headache. And that's because the Ford Fiesta ST has been the king of cheap performance for, well, decades. But the Hyundai i20 has come along with some serious credentials and could very well dethrone the ST for the hot hatch crown. Now, things are about to get seriously geeky, and before I go any further, if you like what we do, why not give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more awesome videos just like this one. If you're going to take on the Ford Fiesta ST, you're going to need to bring your A game, and luckily for Hyundai, it has a secret weapon, Albert Biermann. Now, Biermann is the head of Hyundai's N division and the former boss of BMW M, so knows a thing or two about creating performance cars. Now, the first example we saw of Biermann's work at Hyundai was the i30N, which was an excellent, if really quite hardcore hot hatch, and you can watch my review of that by clicking the link in the top right-hand corner. On the i20N, there is a comprehensive list of improvements. The car sits 10mm lower to the ground compared to the normal car, thanks to a new set of springs. Now, unlike the i30N, which has adaptive dampers, the i20Ns are passive, and that means that you can't make them softer or firmer while on the go. That does mean that it's going to be a little bit stiffer behind the wheel, but it's nowhere near as aggressive as the i30N is when it's in its most aggressive setting. The body has also been reworked as well. You've got a strengthened front subframe and also a brace in the boot, which has all been done in the name of improving rigidity. There's also larger brakes, 40mm larger than what you get on the standard i20, and that's hidden away behind some 18-inch wheels, which are wrapped in very sticky Pirelli P0 tyres. There's also a bunch of styling options as well to reflect the i20N's sportier edge. Now, one of the options is the paint that we see here, Performance Blue, and that reflects the firm's rallying heritage because it runs all of its racing cars in this colour, and it's only available on Hyundai's N products. That's contrasted with a red lip that runs around the base of the car, and you've also got these little flicks as well, which make it look a bit sportier, but personally, I'm not a big fan of it. Contrasting black roof is available as an optional extra. You also get LED head and tail lights as standard. A little rear wing at the back, which is allegedly inspired by the rally car, but it's a much smaller version of it. And there's also a diffuser at the back as well, which probably doesn't do anything, but it looks pretty good. It's also a very light car. This thing weighs 1,190 kilograms, making it some 90 kilograms lighter than the equivalent 5-door Fiesta ST. Now, you can get a 3-door Fiesta ST, but it's still 70 kilograms heavier than the 5-door only i20N. In this game of i20N and Fiesta ST top trumps, the i20N actually sports one more cylinder than the 3-cylinder Ford Fiesta ST. Under the bonnet here, we've got a 1.6-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engine producing 204 horsepower and 270 newton meters of torque. And as a hot hatch should be, it's front-wheel drive and only available with a 6-speed manual gearbox. No automatics or DCTs here. Now, while the overall look of the interior is pretty standard i20, which is by no means a bad thing, the new i20 has a really quite nice interior. There are, though, some N touches in here that really set this apart from the regular Super Mini. The main thing is the sport seats, which have got leatherette at the side and also cloth in the centre. They are really comfortable and grip you nicely when you're throwing this thing about in the corners. You also have the N shifter for the manual gearbox. It's the same as what you get in the i30N, and again, feels great when you're flying through the gears. There's also blue ambient lighting in the door bins, around the door handle, and also in the tray for the wireless charging. And finishing it off is a sport steering wheel with perforated leather grips and some sporty buttons. They include a rev button, which is for rev matching. That means when you're changing down gears, the engine will automatically blip so you don't have to heel and toe, and will just make shifts a little bit smoother. There's also the right N button, which cycles through the different drive modes. You've got Eco, Normal, and also Sport. And then on the left is for N Custom. Now, you can basically create your own performance setting. To do that, you go into the N mode menu and swipe across to the custom setting. Now, there are 3 different modes pretty much for every setting on the car, which is Normal, Sport, and Sport Plus. Now for Custom 1, I'm going to put everything in Sport Plus other than the ESC because it's a little bit damp and I don't want to bin this press car. Now, usually what I would do as well is put the suspension in soft and everything else in hardcore mode, but these are passive dampers. We can't slacken them off, unfortunately, so it's just one setting. Everything else, engine, steering, rev matching, and exhaust, Sport Plus for me. Now, you can have a different mode if you want. There is also a Custom 2, and so you can just switch between them when hitting the N button. It'll either go to Custom 1 or Custom 2. The N mode also has some other cool features too. So if I go into Performance Options, I can activate N Road Sense, which suggests that you put the car into N mode when you come up to a twisty section of road, which I found doesn't always work because I was approaching a town earlier which had a slightly twisty road in it, and it says, why not enter race mode? Which really doesn't make a lot of sense. There's also shift light control, so you can have either a light or sound that plays when you get up to a certain RPM, and you can also activate launch control. You can even program different tracks on here and then set a lap timer to go around it. So if I go into N circuit, it's got the Nürburgring on here. So if I was at the Nürburgring, I could then get the car to time my lap time when I'm driving around it. And if I leave it on this display, I can see my throttle percentage and also my brake pressure percentage as well, which is very nerdy and exactly what I want from a car like this. Now we need to talk about price because that's everything when it comes to a hot hatch. Now the i20N starts at $24,995, and while there aren't many major options, if you want the performance blue paint that we've got in here, that's £550, and if you want the black roof, that's a £500 option. Now compared with the Fiesta ST, the base ST comes in at about £3,000 cheaper than the i20N. But if you want a like for like, you're going to be looking at the full-fat ST3, and they're pretty much on par in terms of price. Of course, there are plenty of deals to be had on i20Ns and Fiesta STs over at yesauto.co.uk, and you might find that the right deal on one of those cars might be able to swing you one way or the other. I'm just going to get straight to the point. The i20N is an exceptionally good car. And of all the cars that I've driven in 2021, ranging from track-honed supercars to V12 hypercars, the i20N is probably the most fun I've had behind the wheel. And that's down to a multitude of reasons. I'm going to start off with the controls. Firstly, this gearbox is really lovely. It feels very similar to the manual box that you get on the i30N, and you've got quite a short throw between the gears, and that means you feel like you're really snapping through and making progress when you've got your foot down. And that's made all the more satisfying when you switch on rev matching and you get the slight blip of the throttle when you change down the gears, because not only does it sound really racy, it just makes everything a little bit smoother. And if you've got a passenger on board, I always recommend you have rev matching on, because it's just going to make gear changes a lot less jerky. Then there's the steering, which admittedly isn't brimming with feel. That's an area that I think the Fiesta ST has the i20N beat, but it's very responsive, and also it's got quite a nice weight to it as well. So you actually feel like you're really chucking a car about when you're getting a move on a twisty road like I am at the moment. Now you can change the characteristics of the steering by going through the different driving modes. If I put it in sport, it's pretty much in its heaviest setting, but I'm just going to keep things in N Custom 1 at the moment because that's exactly how I wanted the car set up. And when I chuck it in the N Custom mode, I've got the exhaust open to its loudest setting. There are 3 different settings for the exhaust: normal, sport, and sport plus. And when you've got it in sport plus, it genuinely sounds really good. It's not quite as characterful as the i30N, which is crackling all the time and is quite boomy. The i20N, though, still makes the odd pop and bang on the downshifts, and for a car of this size, it just sounds really mean. And it's really quite amazing how much this car comes alive when you put it in N Custom, because the throttle genuinely feels a lot more responsive. The car gets significantly louder, and just overall the package just feels a lot sharper and more responsive. The only thing that you can't change is the suspension dampening, which is firm but nowhere near as bad as what you get on the i30N. So we're going through a little town. I'll talk about the boring bits. I'm only doing about 20 miles an hour at the moment, and the ride is really very firm and throwing me all over the place. Now, an i30N really is very aggressive when you've got the dampers in its stiffest setting. The i20 isn't nearly as bad as that, but still, it is very much on the firm side, and a Fiesta ST is going to be a little bit softer on the suspension. And MPG, I've been admittedly hammering this about on B roads as much as I can, but I've also done a fair amount of motorway mileage in this, and I've averaged about 36 MPG. I could probably get that up to 38 if I really tried, but it's not going to get much higher than 38 or 40. But you know, it's a hot hatch. It's not exactly designed to sip fuel, so 36 to 38 really isn't too bad. But really, I think a lot of the arguments around these cars has always been which is better, the i20N or the Fiesta ST. But really, I think we should just look at them as a celebration of where the market's at. We finally got a selection of great hot hatches to choose from. The Fiesta ST has pretty much had its corner of the market all to itself, and now you've got the i20N to choose. And they're very different products. The ST is all about having fun, and it's not going to be the most precise car, it's not going to be the fastest down a road or around a racetrack, but it'll put a smile on your face. The i20N will also make you extremely happy, because if you're like me and you prefer precision over something that's trying to get its tail out all the time, then something like the i20N is for you. Plus, I prefer the interior of the i20 and also the tech, but it really does come down to what kind of driver you are. If you want to get the tail out and make your car a tripod, then the Fiesta ST is the car for you. But if you want to set lap times and feel like you're driving a race car on the road, then the i20N is absolutely the car to go for.